Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Hollywood Museum in the old Max Factor building, and waiting to be profiled are musician-performer Greg Schreiner and writer-producer Tracy Newman. Pianist, narrator, producer, collector Greg Schreiner was born and raised in Illinois. He went to Western Illinois University and holds a master's in piano performance from UCLA. He's on the faculty at Santa Monica College and Cerritos College. He's played as a soloist with the LA Concert Orchestra, the Santa Monica College Symphony, UCLA Symphony Orchestra, and the Cypress Orchestra. And let me surprise you, he is the president of the Marilyn Monroe Fan Club. And we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But tell me how you started in music.
I think it's because of my mother. She really believed in music being important, so at the age of 6, I was given piano lessons, and I never stopped looking back from then.
Did you study all the classical pianists and
pianists
and composers?
I did, indeed. And by the time I was ready to graduate from high school, I really couldn't think of what else I wanted to do except be a pianist, so that's where I went.
And you were in this little town?
Little town, 500 people.
And how did you get somebody who could really teach you?
Well,
because
I know
there
what you're saying. Well, I got started in my little town with just the beginning lessons, and then I had to go to a bigger city nearby, about half an hour away, to get a teacher
1,000 people.
Yes, that was a little more advanced, that could give me more training beyond that. Yeah.
And then you just continued?
Yeah, I just never stopped. I went to college. I fell in love with piano and decided that was my life, and I took lessons all the way through. I got 2 master's degrees in piano. And here I am today.
And you've taught, and you continue to teach?
I can teach and perform.
And are the classes big at school?
Well, they may seem big. There are 20 pianos in a class, yeah. But they're
you have 20 pianos in a room?
But they're electronic, so everybody has their headphones, so it isn't like a cacophony of sound. It's all very peaceful, actually.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Then what do you do? Do you go from piano to piano? Or?
Sometimes. I also have everybody play at the same time together, like a big group thing. It's sort of like the Olympics in '84, everybody playing together.
And you played in the Olympics in '84. That
was
like fantastic. Were all those pianos down on the floor of the Coliseum?
No, we actually came through the arches. They had built up platforms, and there was motorized, and we came through. It was a little scary, actually. And we came through at the last minute, and there were 84 of us playing at the same time.
And how many on a platform?
I think there were maybe around 8.
And you each came in like that?
Mm-hmm. It was amazing.
And how did they choose you to play?
We had to audition, and I went, and I had just played the Rhapsody in Blue at Royce Hall in UCLA, so I really knew it well. So
so that's what they played,
it was a piece of cake for me, yeah.
Were they playing as they came in? Were you playing as you came in on the platforms?
Yes, we actually were, as it started as we came in. So it was quite an experience, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You said you played the Rhapsody in Blue. You also played Shostakovich on PBS.
Yes, I did.
I mean, what a difference from one composer to another.
Yeah, they had approached me about a series they were doing on psychology, and they wanted someone to show how a pianist learns and how it affects their life. And so I was chosen to be that person, and to show my piano skills, I played the Shostakovich Piano Concerto.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That was great. The other thing that I was so impressed was that you could play for ballet classes and dance classes.
That's where I first got a job. When I graduated, I had no job, and so the Syracuse Ballet had an opening, so I went to Syracuse, and I was the pianist there. for their ballet, and then I went on to University of South Florida for 5 years, and then out.
Still with the ballet?
Still with ballet, and then I came out here, and for 1 year I was with the Los Angeles Ballet, and then I decided I wanted to go back to school at UCLA, and that's where I got really serious about teaching piano, and I've been doing it ever since.
But I don't think anybody realizes the background that you have to have to actually play for a ballet company.
Well, absolutely, and I was lucky because I had also studied ballet, so I knew a lot of the steps. I knew the feeling for what to play for.
And
so
the tempo, right?
So I had that advantage, and I understood when they said ronde de jambe, I knew what to play. I knew the kind of music that would work for that.
So you just pick out any kind of music, or did you have music on your piano?
Well, I always had music ready, but I also got bored. So then I would improvise, and they loved it because they were bored too. They'd heard the same old tunes.
Music over and
so
over.
So I'm pretty good at just making stuff up on the spot, and so I would improvise music. And eventually, I put some of them down and produced several CDs.
Oh, you did for ballet? Oh, I have to have one of those.
Stepping Tone Records produces them.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds great. Okay, so you did all that, and you continue to teach. And you don't play for ballet anymore,
Not anymore.
Unfortunately, because it's really important to have somebody great like that.
I would come back occasionally if they were asked me.
But you're producing Hollywood Revisited,
right,
which is a tribute in costume and song.
Well, I've loved movies my entire life. I just fell in love with them as a kid because it was glamour, it was excitement, everything I didn't have when I was growing up.
Oh, in Illinois,
yeah,
in your 500 people
town.
Yeah,
it was just not there. So I said, I'm going to Hollywood someday. And I went there, and really the glamour had kind of left some of Hollywood by then. But there was one area, the old costumes, that still had that old glamour from Hollywood. So I started buying them. One day I woke up, I had 350 in my closet.
But wait, where were you buying them as you used
Auctions, mainly.
Mainly auctions, but not like in thrift stores. You didn't find anything.
I was actually finding a few in thrift stores. We're talking back in the early 80s. Today, I don't think that would happen.
Before people knew.
But people didn't know then. So I could get them in really weird ways, even off of the classified ads. I found a few.
Oh, that's what I was wondering. Yeah. So you would get them in any way you could.
And people just wanted to get rid of them. They didn't need them. They didn't want them. So I would get them then. And I eventually got 350 in my collection. I said, I've got to do something. So I combined my music with singers and dancers wearing the clothes and recreating the magic of old Hollywood with them. So you get the music and the costumes from that era.
So when we see Hollywood Revisited, it goes on the road. You go on the road with it. You go on cruises with it, which is fantastic. Yeah. How do you cast those people?
Well, they have to be tiny, first off, because there's no large costumes back then. Everybody pretty much were tiny people. They look big on the screen, but they were not big people in real life. And they have to have big voices. So that's an interesting combination. Tiny frames with big voices. But I find them.
So you audition?
I do audition people, and I've got some tremendous people. I've got Broadway people right off of Broadway, including Karen Morrow, who is one of the top Broadway people in my show.
She goes on Hollywood Revisited?
She does. She'll be joining me on the cruise coming up.
Oh, she's so great.
I know. I adore her. I just adore her.
And you play for her? You've played for her before?
I do. I actually play for her classes, so I'm very lucky to have her in my life.
She teaches singing?
She does teach it, yeah. So.
That's fantastic. So what would the show be if we went to see the show and we're sitting on a cruise ship?
You would see me come out first in some ridiculously outrageous costume. I sit down and start playing, and then singers come on stage and they start singing.
Like Liberace costume?
That kind of costume, right.
And you play the piano, so you have to have a piano.
I play piano and narrate the show. And behind me, we project on the screen an image of the star from the film actually wearing that costume. So you're seeing the image as well as the costume in real life on the stage, as well as the fabulous music of that era.
And do they sing and dance? Or
they do.
They do dance as well?
In some numbers where it would be appropriate to dance.
So what would the first number be, say, if we were coming on?
Sometimes I start with Liza Minnelli from New York, New York. That's a good opener. It's very exciting and dynamic.
And you have that costume?
I have one of her costumes from that. Very exciting. We might then go to something older, like maybe Gene Kelly from the Three Musketeers.
And he would did he wear a hat in that?
He did, indeed. wear a hat, and then we might go to something sort of in between, or another glamour costume, maybe Katharine Hepburn.
And how many people are in it?
Well, it depends on the budget for the show, but we go everything from 3 people up to 10 people in the show.
So that depends on where you're playing.
Absolutely.
If you're playing in Florida, it might be a smaller
If we have
cast.
to travel, sometimes we don't take everybody with us,
I
but
see.
if we're on the cruise, for instance, I not only bring my cast, but I include part of the people on the ship that are from the cast of the crew.
Oh, you
So-
can use
so
them
I use
too?
their dancers and some of their singers into the show, as well as the orchestra.
And then what do
So
you do?
it's-
Then you have to rehearse them all before
We
you
do.
leave, right?
We do.
It's not an easy like
It's not
that.
easy at all, but we love it, and we just have such a ball. And the audience, because it's a one-of-a-kind show, they'll never see it anywhere else. They go, wow, this is really unique. So
How long is the show?
It can vary from 20 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh, it does. And does that depends on the venue? Or?
And the venue, what they need. Sometimes they don't want a long show, sometimes they need a full-length show.
And if you're on a cruise, I don't know what ship it's on. Is it on a big
It's
ship?
Crystal.
Oh,
which is
Crystal,
one
it's
of-
beautiful.
It's sort of mid-range ship, but very, very
Elegant.
high-end. Yeah.
Is your crew still? Is your cast on there before you get there?
No, we all go
You
together.
all go together.
Yes, yes.
And they all stay on 2 weeks.
Yes, the only thing that goes ahead are the costumes. They ship those
I
ahead
see.
of time.
Okay, you have 350 costumes. You also have Marilyn Monroe's
That's another
costumes
side to my
in
life.
the show at the Hollywood Museum, just downstairs on the 3rd floor. So, and your Marilyn Monroe costumes are in Europe and in different shows,
I
you
know.
told me.
They're traveling more than I am. but-
How do you keep them clean and fresh?
Well, number one, the ones that are on display stay pretty fresh because they're really not exposed to anything. They're in cabinets and they're
cases.
protected, and it really keeps them pretty fresh. I do steam costumes, which I think drives out some of the dirt. You can't really clean them anymore because the fabric's too old and the chemicals would be too hard on the fabric. So
That's what I
I
wondered.
store them in acid-free boxes.
How big are the boxes?
Oh, they're huge, huge boxes.
Your house must be,
Oh.
or are they in storage?
No, they're in my house, all over. I've lost several rooms now, but I don't care. It's the costumes that are more important than me. Yeah.
And then are they, now you have a computer, so you have it all probably computerized.
Everything is on computer, right? So I know what I've got. I've got images of everything, and
And so when the costumes leave the Hollywood Museum, Marilyn Monroe, where do they go?
well, they're going to come back home for a little while. There's rumor of other places, possibly Japan will be our next traveling one. We never know.
And then you go with them and take care of them.
Or I send an expert. I have
Oh, I see.
an expert on costumes that takes care of that end of things.
And before we leave,
Yes.
I know we've talked about all these great things, but how did you become president of Marilyn Monroe Fan Club?
Well, in 1982, I went to the cemetery to pay my respects to Marilyn in Westwood, where she's buried. And I met 2 other people that were also big fans, and we said, we should do something for Marilyn, not just be here.
In 1982.
Too. So the next year, we had a memorial service. People loved it. And ever since then, we've been doing it every year. And because we loved it so much, we said, let's meet every month. So for the last 36 years, we've been meeting.
Is that right?
And it's been an amazing
How many
experience.
people?
Well, we're up to about 1,000 people that are members now, and every year hundreds of people come from all over the world on August the 5th to be there because they know it will be there.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's an amazing event.
Do you do an event do you do a memorial?
Every year at the chapel where she originally had her
It's
service.
in Westwood, right?
In Westwood. And
you do a memorial service?
we invite people that knew Marilyn to come and speak, and every year we've had
And who have you had?
everyone from her stepsister to her husband, first husband, to photographers that worked with her, to actors that worked with her in films. It's an amazing thing. People adore Marilyn, and they come because they love her.
Oh, Greg,
Yeah.
that's so great.
It is. It's
Thank
really
you.
fun.
Thank you for talking about this
Oh,
today.
I could talk for years about that.
I'm so
yeah.
happy to have had you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and don't go away because we also have Tracy Newman talking on the second part of the show. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here at the Hollywood Museum on Highland Avenue as the guest of Donnell Dadigan. I'm with award-winning writer, producer Tracy Newman, who was born and raised in Los Angeles, went to University High, and the University of Arizona in Tucson.
Well, for 1 year.
That's right. That's why I had to say you didn't graduate.
No, I certainly didn't.
She's a founding member of the Groundlings, along with her sister Lorraine Newman. And Tracy has written for TV shows like Ellen, which was one of her award-winning gigs, right?
Yeah.
Cheers, The Nanny, and The Drew Carey Show, and some of which she also produced. She has, as she stated, turned to being a singer-songwriter. So you haven't given that all up, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I co-created According to Jim with Jim Belushi in 2001. And then after when it went into syndication, I left television.
and you became a singer-songwriter?
I went back to being a
So what are we calling you? Yes, okay, I'm going to say you went back. That isn't really new because you started with the New Christy
I
Minstrels.
did. I was in the New Christy Minstrels. I'm not a real good group person like that. I stayed in for like a month.
Oh, but what was it? But why was it so new? Was it new? Was that always
You
their
mean why
name?
was the New Christy Minstrels so new? I don't know. That's because I think they were I don't know.
So singing wasn't so far from you. How did you start?
No, you mean how did I start when I went back to it after television at this
How
age?
did you
Is that what you mean?
ever start singing? How did
Oh,
you
I
start-
was like, well, I was playing guitar when I was 14. I was just, I had relatives that sang.
I was going to
and
ask you, are you from the Newman family?
No.
Randy Newman?
No, I
Those-
actually have met
Paul
Randy
Newman?
My brother's name is Paul Newman.
Oh,
he
it's-
changed it to Dutch.
Poor guy.
But he
you
used to
went-
get calls. Like in high school, he got calls from girls. It was terrible.
But you're not from that Newman family. The-
I'm from the Lorraine Newman family.
So is that the only way the show business comes into your family? Was through your sister?
Through my sister, but I was always, when I was singing, I was living in New York. I was hanging around the Improv in the early days of the Improv in New York. So I was hanging around a lot of comedians, and then when I started, I was one of the people that started the Groundlings in
I know. How did you
1972.
do that?
Well, I didn't do that by myself.
But
You don't do
still.
anything by yourself in this town.
But still, you were with a group. But how'd you decide to do that?
It like all improv companies, they start from a class. It was a group of people, and Lorraine had been in Paris, and she came home, and I said, you got to come to this class I'm in, and we were in this class before it became the Groundlings for about a year, and then we named it, and then we started renting theater space and stuff like that.
And who was in the first group with you?
Oh my
How
God,
many
you
people?
won't believe this. Okay, Craig T. Nelson, Tim Matheson.
I loved him.
I know he about the cutest man I had
I know,
really
and
ever
especially
seen.
then.
Oh,
that
just-
many
it's
years
so
ago.
cute and very, very funny. Really a good improviser. And I'm blanking. Pat Morita,
Oh, really?
Jack Sue.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really
So there was a
leaving out
group of
Valerie
you.
Curtin. I'm leaving out some people there. There was a remarkable group of people at the beginning, but they kind of dropped away, and they didn't
Filled
stay.
in and out.
Yeah.
So you, as you said, you were always musical.
Yeah, I had already been playing. So when I quit TV, I went back to singing in, clubs for like 10 people.
But let's not get back to clubs for 10 people. Let's get back to the University of Arizona, where your mom had to come
so
get
sad.
you.
Well, my parents insisted that I go to college, and I really didn't. I kind of knew that I wanted to be in show business and be a singer at the time, just singing and playing the guitar. And so I went to the University of Arizona because of some friends of mine got in. So I got in. It was easy to get into. It was the party school.
It was easy then.
It really was, and I think it probably still is. But anyway, I went there and I never attended class. I went, I would go and sing on street corners, and of course at that time, that was like really safe in Arizona. There was no danger in that. But my mother was, freaked out and worried, and they'd paid for college, and so she came and got me.
I think
and took
that's
me
so
to
great.
therapy.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, Beverly Hills therapy.
And the guy and the therapist?
He was probably in his 40s, and I was, you know, like 18, 19, whatever old you are when you're in college, and he used to fall asleep.
It's so
Because
funny.
my session was right after lunch, and I would come in and he would be asleep, and I would be thinking, well, how could he possibly be interested in this girl from Beverly Hills who wants to be a folk singer? You know, I mean, it was so foreign to that man. I mean, it was such a wrong person for me.
I know, it's funny
that's the
though.
thing.
But sometimes your parents pick somebody that they think is a friend of a
Yeah,
friend,
he was
or who
wearing a
knows.
suit,
I
a
know.
suit and tie. I think they thought this is the right kind of thing. I mean, you know, and how do you know when your therapist is good? And you know, when it's the right therapist, it takes you years.
I don't know. But so after all that, then you became an award-winning TV
Well,
writer.
you know,
that one situation with Ellen, tell us about that.
Well, you know, as I said, you can't do anything alone in this business. I mean, writing for
You're so humble.
I'm not. No, I don't. I'm totally not humble. But anybody who was on that staff with me knows exactly what I'm talking about. There are 14 writers.
Oh.
My partner and I, we were lucky enough to be chosen by Disney and ABC and Ellen to write that half hour. It was a 1 hour show, but we wrote the half hour ending with her coming out at the airport. You may remember that.
Tell us a little bit about it, just so people hear the story.
Well,
Because it was how long ago?
it was not, well, we won the Emmy in 97, so it was
So, yeah.
96,
Yeah.
and it was, oh, you know, Disney was getting
Were they?
bomb scares, and
Oh, they were.
oh yeah, and people were threatening to pull the advertising from the show because it leaked out. You know, we were
Oh,
trying to keep it
before.
quiet because we didn't do it until the 23rd episode in a
I
25 or 26 episode season. And we all knew at the beginning of the season this was going to happen, and it was supposed to be a secret. Well, you know, there's like
No secrets.
hundreds of people working, you know, on staff out there, you know, including all the production people. So it was sort of ridiculous to assume that it was going to keep under wraps. But it's interesting, really, to me, how that even happened.
I
You
know, it
that
was so
Disney-
far ahead, wasn't it?
Well, you know, it's Michael Eisner.
You think?
It was Michael Eisner. You know, first of all, when I worked at Disney for many, many years, I was in development. You know, I was one of the lucky writers that got a development deal, my partner and I.
But and tell us where your partner came. Where'd you meet him?
At the Groundlings.
At the Groundlings.
Yeah, which is good advice to anybody, especially women who are trying to break into sitcom writing. Get a male partner.
Yes. Why did
Who's
that
funny.
help? Why did that help? Oh, it's funny.
Well, because you know, a lot of people think that that television writing is sexist and ageist, but the truth is, if you know, I was 46 when I got my first television writing job.
Wow.
Right, and my partner was 10 years younger and a guy.
So there you are. So he was kind of current.
So
and
it
hip.
made it like, oh well, that's okay. She'll fill our quota for age and sex, gender, you know,
Right.
because I was a woman, and he's real funny. They didn't really know my value, other than that, you know, and it turned out that we were a really good team. But I think that, you know, not that there isn't ageism and sexism. I'm sure there is. But I think that they really are more concerned with the burnout rate. You know,
yeah.
if somebody's been working in television for 25, 30 years, there's kind of a burnout rate.
Okay,
You know?
right.
But if you're
And-
new to it, like I was like, I might as well have been a kid. I was so
Is
excited.
he still writing?
Yeah, he continued. He stayed on, according to Jim, for it stayed on the air for 8 seasons.
His
so.
name?
Jonathan Stark.
And so it was Stark and Newman.
Newman and Stark, yeah. Right.
Newman and
Ladies
Stark.
first.
Oh, excuse me. All right. So Newman and her band.
Yeah.
Tracy
Oh,
Newman
yeah, right.
and the reinforcements.
Yeah.
So where'd you get the reinforcements from?
Well, I started out, you know, when I went back, I thought, well, how do I do this? You know, I'm pretty old. I'm gonna go back to being a singer-songwriter. So I started writing songs, and then I went to a place called Kulak's. Actually, no, that I met my singers somewhere else. It was called the Talking Stick, and there were 2 people in the audience, and they started singing harmony with me, and I invited them on stage, and they became my backup singers.
You reinforced.
And then then a drummer joined and a bass player joined and
But it's such a long name, Reinforcements.
well, because they really reinforced me. I don't know how I thought of and the band or the troupe. But then
Yeah.
I thought, no, they're really reinforcing me. I mean,
But with them, you have 2 CDs.
I have 2 CDs.
And
This is my
tell
new
me-
one.
Which is?
It's called I Just See You.
And it's
Tracy
all
Newman and
dark.
the Reinforcements.
Turn the back because there's the reinforcements on it.
There they are.
And what kind of songs on that?
Well, I wrote all of them. I kind of, if you have to do it, categorize my music, it's acoustic, country, a little bit folk.
Are they everyday life?
Yeah,
This is everyday life.
I'd say I'm a somewhat modern folk singer. I deal with modern issues. Like there's one on here that's about
This
plastic
is the second one.
surgery. This is the first one.
Oh, this is the first one.
Yeah,
Okay,
but-
this is the new. Okay, tell me the name of this one.
This is called A Place in the Sun, and actually, it's interesting that we're here. Remember?
Oh, the movie.
There's a place in Palm Springs called A Place in the Sun that was built for the crew when they were shooting certain scenes in Palm Springs.
Really?
With Elizabeth Taylor
And
and
then
Montgomery Clift.
How did you get the title?
I wrote a song about the place, and then I just chose that particular song for the title.
Your songs are little stories. They're like little haikus.
I like to think that they are.
Do you?
I try.
I mean, I listened to all of them on. I put them because I saw you the other day, and you gave me that, so I put it
I'm
in my
so
car.
glad you listen. Most people, you give them the thing, they can't get the paper off.
I got
mean,
the paper,
that's,
but they were like little stories. I mean, I woke up, I went to the kitchen, I made a waffle. I don't know, little
well,
things.
they're not quite that
but-
that mundane, but they
But
they
they're
they do have
everyday.
they do have everyday origins. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one you're talking about really was something I actually saw happen. It wasn't me. It was
Somebody
it was
else.
a young boy. Yeah, but I think that my experience writing television really helped me write better songs because I began to write very filmically.
So where did the inspiration come from? People you've seen, or because
Sometimes it's, well, first of all, when you quit television and you decide to become a singer-songwriter, you should probably take a class. So
Did you do that?
I took several classes and ended up with Harriet Schock. I don't know if you know
Oh.
Harriet. She's the only songwriting teacher as far as I'm concerned, and wrote a couple things right away in hers. 5 or 6 of the songs here were written in there.
these are all for you. Do you write for other people as well?
Not intentionally. They occasionally do sing
I
them.
was going to say, will they take your work?
Yeah,
and-
some of them do. I mean, I'm so specifically personal sometimes. But for instance, I Just See You, the title song of this CD is, I'm sure that'll get covered. I mean, I
Like,
have,
what are the words?
I don't see young, I don't see old, I just see you. It's a lot of people relate to that. It's really from the point of view of a couple who've been together for many years, and
Yes,
she's
that's-
worried about the lines on her face.
Exactly.
And he's basically, he really
It's
just
true.
sees
I only
her.
see you.
Yeah.
The other one with the plastic surgeon.
That one is in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. It's so funny. I meant that to be. It is a serious song, but it starts out and people laugh at it, which is they think it's funny, and I didn't really mean. It's because you can't put words like procedure into a song without it sticking out and being,
Yeah.
it's sort of. I'm sorry that it ended up that way because I like the music a lot, and I like the idea of that song.
And have you used this guitar forever?
No,
Oh.
I bought this maybe 5, 6, maybe it's actually more like 8 years ago, and I have been using it for all my shows.
So when you
It's
go,
called a
when you play,
Goodall.
when you play in Venice,
I'll have the Goodall.
and you play.
one.
Do you have
I'll
any
play.
other accompaniment?
Yeah, my band. I have
Oh,
my
then
band.
they play too. They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
just sing.
No, there's a bass player, a guitar player, another guitar player, a drummer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Big.
It's small. It's a lot of people, but it's small. It's pretty intimate.
Well, we were very intimate today. We went through your lyrics.
Yeah, you went through my whole
we
life.
Played with your little guitar.
I think of myself as complicated, but I'm obviously not.
See how simple it was?
This is wonderful.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com.